Good afternoon, folks. We're here for a Public Works meeting. It's November 28th, 2023, and we're going to start off with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Roberts.
Here.
Ham.
Here.
Lehman.
Here.
Pettigrew.
Here.
Roseland.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Next up is the adoption.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Roberts, second by Ham. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Consent items 1 through 14. My colleagues like to pull anything?
Motion to approve. Non-consent.
Motion to approve by Roberts,
Second.
second by Roseland. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 15. Revise the rates charged by the city water utility by amending section 13.08.400 of Rapid City Municipal Code. Staff recommendation is to approve. Mr. Roberts.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to have to make this quick because I need to leave here in a little bit. But I have a few questions. I think I'll start with our Public Works Director.
Of course.
Thank you. Dale, looking at what we've got so far on this, it looks like this is pretty much, at least on the water side, it's pretty much just a copy and paste of what we did for the last increases for the water rates.
Well, the rate structure looks similar. However, the analysis, all the information that went in behind it certainly was a fresh look from 2017, if that's what you're referring to.
Well, I'm just referring to the fact that it's exactly the same thing we did for 5 years. We took a year off, and now we're asking for the exact same rate increase. Can you explain kind of how that happened? Because usually when we increase our rates, and I've been a proponent for many, many years of just putting a increase for cost into these rates every year instead of doing, increasing our rates 10% whenever we need to for 5 years. I mean, this is going to become problematic for a lot of people, especially a lot of my residents that are on fixed incomes and a lot of people that, are lower wage earners. When you look at the water side and you look at now with the sewer side coming in, basically over the next 5 years, it looks like our constituents' rates are going to about double. So I guess it's frustrating for me because I do know a lot of things have changed in the last 3 years. I know that much better than most people. But it just seems like we're not doing a very good job at planning for the future.
Actually, this rate structure, if I may, Mr. Chairman, thank you. That's exactly what this rate structure does, is plans for the future. With any utility, you've got capital improvements that you have to do. Certainly the last 3 years with the huge increases of inflation that we've seen, we have to make adjustments to our rates to be able to keep up with that into the future. If we let that slide, our dollar buys less out in the outer years. We have capital improvements we must make on our system. We have replacements that we have to do. Some of our infrastructure is 100 years old. We've got a plan for that, and we've got to keep that in our capital improvement plans to make sure that we don't defer these improvements and then the costs go up even further in future years.
Yep, and I definitely get that. I understand that. Another reason why I've been a proponent for a long time of changing the way that the Vision Fund has been done, because I think we need a lot more of that money for capital improvement projects. I think that it just looks like, and it feels like every year we're putting more and we're putting more and we're putting more onto the backs of the taxpayers, and it's getting more and more and more difficult for people every year. Another question I have, Dale, what is the estimated loss on our water system side? How much water do we lose
I don't have
A
that in
month or a
front of me. I've got some folks here from Public Works that may be able to answer that question. Eric, are you prepared to answer that question? Eric Boyd, our water superintendent, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Turn that off. It likes me.
Mr. Chair, my name's Eric Boyd. I'm the water superintendent. I do not have the specific numbers, but from my understanding, it's anywhere from 10 to 12% water loss.
Thank you. I'm glad that you gave me that because I've had an issue with that for many, many years too. I think that one of the things that we need to look at in our system is how we can conserve, how we can, look at making our system more efficient. And with that, I'll tell you, I want to transition into you now, Rusty, because I want to ask you some questions about your system, if you don't mind. Thank you, Rusty.
thank you.
Another thing that I was a proponent of, and I worked with our last Public Works director on the city taking over the lines from the main to the residences, and somehow that got lost after our last director left. But I know you do that in Rapid Valley. Can you give me some idea of what your water loss is in Rapid Valley?
Well, sure. I mean, we actually read monthly just for water loss, and we've been doing that for several years. But last year's annual average was right at 11%, and we do leak detection almost weekly, if not monthly. We have our crew go out and about and do actual leak detection through all the different neighborhoods. But no, this last month was at 14%, and prior months we've been at 7%. Because once you fix some leaks, that creates another weak link. So it's a never-ending deal. But we're very proactive on our water loss and leak detection. So I got crew that just does that specifically for the most part. So, but you could say an annual average. Our best year ever was 7%. And the last year was right at 11% for the yearly average.
Okay. I was interested in that because I know that there's a lot of talk about what, is standard and what is, to me it seems high, but I don't know much about water.
Yeah,
so.
I think the AWWA average is what they like you to see below is 10%, but I think the system average nationwide is probably 30% water loss actually.
Wow. Okay.
But you have to be very proactive in order to stay on top of it. And like I said, since 2013, our staff has actually found, not surfaced, but actually found over 400 plus leaks with our leak detection equipment, and we're still averaging close to that 10%. So.
Okay. Now let me go back to our Public Works Director. What do we do for leak detection in Rapid?
Just as Mr. Schmidt, as we have folks that's what they do on a daily basis. We have equipment and gear. We've got representatives here from our utility maintenance that's what they do is fix leaks, look for leaks
Okay.
every day.
Thank you very much. One more question, if you don't mind, Rusty. I'm very impressed by the water system that you have out in Rapid Valley. And can you kind of give us just a little bit of a overview of the comparison between how yours works and how ours work?
Yeah, I can't really speak necessarily to Rapid Cities. They can speak to that, but what we do as for our system, all the way from treatment, I'm probably being biased here, but we're probably the most advanced in the water treatment as for production per square foot, on our water treatment side. As for the distribution side, other than our stringent leak detection that we do continually, we also provide for our system and our constituents, as you know, the water service from the main all the way to the meter if there is an underground leak. And the same with the sanitary sewer line from the main to the property line. If there's a separation or a collapse, after it's cambered, we verify that, right? We pay for that as well. Realizing the costs that most people can't afford. So we have pretty stringent criteria You know, I mean, as for, we don't do cathodic protection, you know, on other ends of things, we do, you know, double wrapping of 8 mil plastic on all fittings and stuff, because it's important to keep the soils off the fittings, not necessarily grind the epoxy off, but that's at different views and different systems. It all depends on the corrosivity of the soil and what you're looking at. But, no, so it's, and, you know, we do try to keep rates viable for the consumers, keep them down, and, you know, on an average, we, you know, consistently since about '08, we averaged 3.5% to 4% rate increase, because at them rate increases, you know, the consumer can absorb that easier. But then that's why we kind of do a consistent amount. So.
Thank you very much. I know that, you know, you and I had talked about mostly the sewer side and what this new rate increase is going to do to you on the sewer side. And could you explain that a little bit and where you'll be out 5 years from now if the rates for your Rapid Valley sanitary increase the way they do?
Yeah, I mean, if we stay, you know, with and we don't have our own cost of service analysis done that's specific to the district, and we're on the proposed rate structure where we pay 100% of collection. No, and by 2028, by going with the numbers that are proposed, no, that amount of cost, it would be prudent for us to go and build our own reclamation facility. And so you figure almost a break-even point in 2028 to 2029, and then after that, just like we've done on the water side of things, we will keep rates at a more reasonable rate for our consumers going forward. And, you know, on the wastewater side, historically, we always averaged about 3% to 4% increase as well, so.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Real quick, can I go back to Dale?
Of
And then
course.
I have to leave. Dale, what is it going to do to our system if 5 years from now we lose those 5,000 people on the sewer side?
Well, that's, the same thing could have been said when they decided, you know, we used to supply Rapid Valley, the water for Rapid Valley, and the same thing went when they decided to treat their own water. We lost a significant part of our revenue. So certainly if they decide to build their own treatment, which I don't believe that the state will probably fund an additional plant since there's one less than a mile from an existing one, that's another story. It'll have a significant impact to our existing customers.
So if they're not allowed to build their own treatment plant out there, then the city of Rapid City, in my opinion, is just kind of holding them hostage
Well,
because...
If I may, Rapid Valley is by agreement. And certainly that agreement can be renegotiated at any time. It was passed, a year ago, a little over a year ago, 2 years ago, time flies.
But
So-
there's a big difference between what was passed 2 years ago and what's being proposed now. Because what was passed 2 years ago was 10% for, can you refresh me?
It was locked into what the adopted rates were. So there wasn't a specific rate. It just referenced our residential rate. One thing that I do need to say in regards to, Rapid Valley has 19 connections to our sewer system. So they do have a significant impact to the capacity of our sewer system. In fact, we've got a multi-million-dollar project out along Reservoir Road in Jolly Lane area to divert capacity, and a lot of that is due to Rapid Valley utilizing existing capacity in our trunk sewer main. And
I've been here,
everyone
I've been here ever since the beginning of that, which was like 8 years ago.
Sure.
That was supposed to have been done 7 years ago, then 6 years ago, then, anyway, I'm going to have to leave because I've got to be to a business appointment, but that's all I can ask for now. Thank you, Dale. I appreciate it. Thank you, Rusty.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Mr. Freitag, the public comment periods are over, but I will give you my 5 minutes if you would like to speak on this item.
Thank you, Lance. I appreciate your help. My name is Bill Freitag. I'm a resident in Rapid City. And my comments today are going to be based on this rate increase that the staff is encouraging you to raise our water rates. If our water rates need raised, don't have a problem. If they don't need raised, I do have a problem. And so we have some obvious problems with the management of our water system today, some of which Rusty was able to point out as how he actually cut, when he started fixing these leaks, when he got that new equipment to fix these leaks, he cut everybody's water rate 8%. Now you can ask him if I got my numbers right, but he actually gave it all of his customers a rate decrease, not a rate increase, because he stopped losing money through leaks. He lost less money through leaks than what he was. There's three things that are pretty easy and simple to consider here. Is if we're wasting water, let's stop wasting the water. It's too expensive to waste. Let's quit watering golf courses and parks with treated water. When I spent a lot of years with my son in Post 22, and I did a lot of work on that baseball field, we took the water right out of the creek, and we had our underground sprinkler system set up, and we go back there and start that, and would do it. And it wasn't our water right; it was the city's water right, but we were able to use it. So let's not use treated water to treat golf courses. Let's pull it where we got the creek right there running through it. Why don't we modify that and use cheaper water? The cost of production. You got to consider the cost of production. I helped Rusty with the Pennington County Commissioners to get a $5 million grant from them that was contingent upon him getting a matching fund from the state. And he had to do that because he had to have some money to drill wells. The reason he's got to have money to drill wells is because the city of Rapid City is hoarding all the water rights. Had been hoarding them for over 25 years, if a water right comes on the market tomorrow, the city's going to get it, and they're going to use taxpayer dollars, which Rusty can't compete with. He doesn't have taxpayer dollars, so the only way he can get a surface water right is to know about it before the city does. Then he's got half a chance of getting it. If we could get him a very small amount of our water rights, and I'm sure you don't know how much water rights the city of Rapid City has. They have the majority of the surface water rights, and it's a ton of water, the surface water. Then backing that up, in Pactola, you have a stored water right. The only one that has a water right that is better or earlier than the city's is Ellsworth Air Force Base, has 3,000 feet of that water, 3,000 acre feet. Okay? Would you be surprised to know that the next 47,000 acre feet belongs to the city of Rapid City? Why don't we give him some of that? Let him produce this water. I think he can produce water. I've seen his equipment that he uses. I've had some of you go with me out there, and I've had some of you go privately out there so you could view it for yourself. He can produce the water the way he does it. He's the most efficient water operator for sure in western South Dakota, probably in the whole state. In my opinion, Rapid City is about the worst. So you got the best to the worst. So let's look at the stuff the best could do. I think, and you'd have to get this from Rusty, but I think he can produce the water and sell it to the city of Rapid City cheaper than what the city of Rapid City can do it. So let's investigate that. If he can't do it, fine, we'll figure something else out. But at least we ought to consider it. And to do that, all he would need is a surface water right or a stored water right. Okay? Here's the third thing. I could talk to you guys probably for an hour, but I'm only going to keep it simple. The third thing here is this water enterprise fund. If you're going to charge me more, and it's all under the idea that I've got to put more money into, you have to put more money into the water enterprise fund, then you got to quit abusing the water enterprise fund. When I come to these budget hearings, I'm just going to pull off the top of my head. I come to the budget hearing, the council president was running the budget hearing, and the guy is presenting the budget, and she's praising him. You know what she was praising him for? Because the city attorney's budget The year before, 75% of his budget came out of the water enterprise fund, and this year it was about 50%. So she's praising him for not screwing the water enterprise fund by 25 more percent. That money in that water enterprise fund is a fee. A fee is not a tax. And if you're going to charge somebody a fee, you've got to have a offsetting benefit. And it's pretty fixed. The only thing that can adjust it is overhead, and it's a small percentage that you can allow for overhead. The city of Rapid City historically, long before the current director or anybody else, has abused this water enterprise fund because it was a source of money. And so that's where they would go to get it. What we need is an audit, a certified audit of that water enterprise fund. I want to know what that is. Before you start charging me more money to put into there, I want to know how much of that money you're abusing. You're breaking the law when you take and launder it through the city attorney's budget. So that's the three simple things. Let's figure out how much we're wasting. Let's figure out what the real cost of production is, and if somebody can produce it and sell it to us cheaper than we can, let's find that out. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. And then you've got to audit this water enterprise fund. You can't keep abusing it. You just can't do it anymore. If I have to lead the charge on this one, I'm going to lead the charge. If I got to go to court and get a judge to give me an order that this water enterprise fund, I got enough documentation to take to court to show that this fund's being abused. So I encourage, you guys aren't ready for a first reading or a second reading or anything on any of this. There's a whole lot of work's got to be done first. So if anybody had any questions for me, I'd be glad to take them. Otherwise, I'll sit down.
Thank you, Bill. Mr. Tech, you were in the queue. Did you want to speak? Jesse, can you shut up? Trans mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the audience today, we've got select people from our water and water reclamation utilities, the professionals that dedicate not only their work hours to our citizens and our customers, but their lives, really. They're the experts that understand our system, work with it every day. Contrary to Mr. Freitag's comments about how lousy our system is, I think we have the best system in western South Dakota, certainly, if not the entire state. The reason these folks are in front of you today is for you to ask them any questions that you would have regarding our systems. We've encouraged you to come visit us, do some site tours. We have had no takers on that, so we figured we'd bring the people to you if you've got specific questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tech. Do my colleagues have any questions? Mr. Pettigrew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions. I've said from the city council dais, water is precious. And there are going to be world wars over water. And I applaud our city government for being proactive in securing water rights for this city. And I believe what we should be working towards is a regional water system, so everyone works together and not be arguing and fighting about who's got the best system. That is not productive at all. And I would encourage everyone to put on a hat that we work together, realizing the best interests of not only Rapid City are at hand, but the best interest, Rusty, of your customers, the best interest of Box Elder, the best interest of everybody, because water's precious. And to Dale's point, I'm sorry I haven't had time to tour your plant. I've been dealing with the homeless situation. We got a good water system. People do not appreciate the quality of water that Rapid City has, and they do not appreciate the volume of water we have. Travel the world, go to large cities in the U.S., they're drinking, they're drinking water out of bottled water all the time. I just want Rapid City to realize we have a great system. I have full confidence in Dale Tech and his staff that they are doing everything they can to ensure we have the best water at the best rates. Do I like the 10% price increase? No. I take great pride in my lawn. My wife hangs me out to dry every month in the summer when she sees my water bill. I will pay dearly for this water, and I'll probably use less. So one positive thing about more expensive water, it makes people think, and maybe they should conserve a little bit of water and not be so wasteful. Thank you.
Mr. Ham?
Thank you. Oftentimes, I've had this question many times. Why don't you spend the time touring? It's because I do trust that me spending maybe even 3 or 4 days touring a facility wouldn't give me better questions at this juncture. That's kind of been. I've actually gone through that discussion with a lot of different people over the past year. I agree that we have a really good stable water supply, and there's some references, Mr. Tech, that I read through here that make a lot of sense to me. I think there's a lot of rational thought processes here. I think there's some reasonable questions that I had coming into this. My question that I had that is sort of covered here in your memorandum, but I wanted to talk with you so that everybody can hear the answer and I don't have to answer the question 100 times. Is there a way that we can decrease the cost of production by subcontracting some of that supply of water? Is that something that's feasible for us as a city or as a municipality? That's the first question I had.
My answer to that is no.
Okay.
The additional infrastructure needed to push water back uphill would be, it would offset any gains.
Okay.
And if I may expound on that just a little bit, Alderman Pettigrew, talked about regionalization. Rapid City can supply water to all of Rapid Valley right now, today. For them to take our source water, which our customers, our citizens, have paid for, have planned for the future for the last 80 years, and to let them use that water for their benefit, I think is something we shouldn't do. And I don't think our customers would appreciate that either.
Okay. Second question that I had coming in is there any, so we have, from my understanding, it sounds like 10 to 12% loss. Is there a way to objectify that? Is there a way that we can have a little more objective measurement of what volume of water is lost?
Once again, monthly we determine what that loss rate is. It's water produced versus how much runs through the meter. Certainly there are challenges in Rapid City. We've got a large footprint. We've got all of our water is metered. However, that doesn't mean that there are some illicit takings from our system, but certainly we look for those every day.
Okay. And so just for the layman, illicit takings, describe that if you will,
Well,
Mr. Tech.
Somebody tapping into a fire hydrant and taking water out of fire hydrants aren't metered. Things like that, things
Understood.
of that nature.
Okay. Is this a reasonable concept? This Water Enterprise Fund, I'm not particularly familiar with it. It may not be a question for anyone here specifically, but it seems like that might not be a bad idea to get an audit of what we've been doing with our Water Enterprise Fund. How do I go about
Well, I
making
mean,
that?
annually the city is audited. So
Okay.
as part of that audit are
It's
all
part
of
of
our
it.
enterprise funds, fire, police, not police, fire, certainly ambulance, the water reclamation, all of our enterprise funds are part of that audit.
Okay.
Mr. Ham, would you like Mr. Ainsley to elaborate on that at all?
Yes, please, if you could.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, as Director Tech explained, every enterprise fund is audited along with our general fund, and every fund that the city has that's done on an annual basis. It is done by an outside auditing firm, Kittle Thorstens, and then that is provided to the state as well, and the state reviews that. In fact, I think the presentation on the 22 audit was provided to the council, I think it was last month. And it should be posted on the website. If not now, then it will be in a couple of weeks, the complete audit. In addition, I was actually just looking through the 24 budget, and the total interdepartmental transfer from the water fund is $352,000 or 1.4%. So that's the total overhead of the water fund, and that's not just for attorneys, but that's for attorney, IT, human resources, finance. That's for everything. So that's the total administrative charge. Or outside administrative charge. That doesn't include all the administration of Public Works.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Roseland?
Thank you. I just have one question. It's kind of my inability to figure out some stuff here. Earlier on, one of our meetings, you brought up the reserves and that the 2017 study was successful in building up the reserves. Is that the same thing as the Water Enterprise Fund?
Yes, the reserves are part of that water enterprise fund, so it's one account, one bank account, if you will. So as, you know, for a good financial practice, as part of that bank account, you want to make sure you have a reserve in there for unexpected things. Let's say we had a natural catastrophe like the 1972 flood occurred again. That would have a significant impact on our utilities. We need to have that money in reserve for a couple of reasons. Number one is to fix the system that is damaged, and also we will not be, there will be a lot of people out of service. We won't be receiving any revenue during that time too. So that reserve is meant to offset those types of emergency, and once again, there's lots of guidance on what those reserves should be, and that's why we put them in policy.
Yeah, it just seems like you guys were seem, at least I think, I can't remember who was visiting about that you seem pretty proud that with finances out of the 2017 budget, that the reserves were filled up because of that budget. And why is it that the cost is kind of, I guess, expensive when there's no reserves to fill up, and you got that, I guess it's a cushion because that's filled up? It seems like you're getting more money out of the public for at least not filling up the reserves.
Yeah, our reserves have to build every year just as our city grows, and we get larger every day. We're annexing more area where there's new developments going on, so that reserve has to grow along with it. So certainly we need to have that as part of our rate structure. This go around with this rate study, it's the capital improvements that are really driving the need to have this rate adjustment. And we've seen construction costs nearly double over the last 3 years in a lot of our specific things that we do, particularly in utilities. It's very expensive. So that is the main driver behind this rate structure, is to position ourselves to keep on top of the capital improvements that we have to do every year to keep our system viable. By not doing those types of capital improvements, we're just deferring that into the future, and that will be a much larger price tag the further we push all of these improvements that are necessary or will be necessary off into the future.
Thank you very much. I yield.
Mr. Ham?
Question for Director Tech, if you did.
Of course.
In that realm of capital improvements being primary impetus behind this rate increase, is it feasible then that there would be at least a stagnation of those rates thereafter, given what you see?
We certainly hope so. In one of the earlier presentations we did, I showed a graph that showed some lines of revenues and what that meant. And one of those was the capital, and there was some fairly significant increases, and I did make the comment at that time that we anticipate those to level out in the future. So that is a strong indication of what this rate structure will do, and that's what we're planning for.
Okay, high probability of that. Okay. With that, I'd like to make a motion that we send this to council without recommendation.
Motion by Ham. Is there a second? Second by Roseland. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-1. Item 16, a resolution to amend rates to be charged in 2024 through 2028 for water and water rec services. Motion to approve by Pettigrew. Second by Roseland. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-1. Would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Pettigrew, second by Ham. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.